So as you can see, I'm surrounded by mics, and I'm intentionally not using a lav mic for this video because I want to wrap up this course with a couple videos on recording dialogue, and you'll be hearing my voice through each of these 5 mics. So to start, I'll use the Shure SM7B. The 7B is a dynamic mic, and when it's not used for the singing voice, when it's used for speaking voice, it's typically used for broadcasting and radio and dialogue for voiceovers for things like YouTube videos and educational content. If you angle the mic like I have it here, you'll never have to use a pop filter because the 7B actually has its own internal pop filter. Now, if you're doing dialogue for animated films or you're doing dialogue replacement for live action films, you want to stay away from dynamic mics. This is because you can pretty obviously hear the tone color that the mic imposes on the recording. This is also why I stay away from tube mics for dialogue as well. Next, I'll jump over to the Lawson L251, which is a FET clone of the Telefunken ELA M251. If you use a condenser mic for broadcasting or radio, you get the added benefit of the mic having a more sensitive pickup and a much clearer high end. The downside is that you really can't talk into the side of the mic like you normally would when you're singing into it, even though it's a side-addressed mic. With broadcasting, you want to get pretty close to the mic, which means you can't use a pop filter, and if you talk too close into the side of the mic, you'll get a bunch of plosives. So the workaround for this is that you can angle the mic toward you like this and talk into the top side of the mic. This does affect the tone color a bit, so you don't want to sing into it like this, but you can do this to avoid plosives for speaking and broadcasting purposes. Now, if you're doing non-broadcasting dialogue work for film, you pretty much always want to use a large diaphragm condenser mic like this Warm Audio WA87, which is a Neumann U87 clone, and they're really common for dialogue work. Now, for this kind of dialogue work, you don't want the tone color or the saturation of the mic to take the viewer out of the film. So, for example, if you're doing dialogue replacement for a live action film, you want the dialogue to sound like it was recorded in the scene. You don't want it to sound like it was recorded in a studio like this. So if you talk too close to the mic, this can actually cause some low-end buildup, and it can also cause some of the tone color of the mic to be imposed on the recording. So typically, I will back off the mic a bit to avoid this, and I'll also avoid dynamic mics and tube mics for this reason as well. This next one is an AKG C414 BULS. It's a bit darker than the 87, so it's useful if you have a brighter speaker to help reduce some of the sibilance. I use this mic all the time for doing dialogue for educational videos, and it was actually the same mic that I used for all of the screen capture videos in this course. And lastly, I've got the Warm Audio WA47 Junior. Now, as I said before, this is a U47 clone, but it's a FET clone, which means it doesn't have a tube. It uses transistor-based amplification, just like these other 2 condenser mics. Now, the thing that's special about the 47 Junior is that it's actually a transformerless mic, so it has no tube and no transformer. So when you pull out the components in a mic that color the tone, you end up with a very clear, detailed recording, which is why transformerless mics are very common for dialogue. So next up, I'll play a clip of each of the mics back to back, so you can hear the difference between them. Hi everyone, this is Josh Carney, and you're watching this studio series on vocal recording and production. Hi everyone, this is Josh Carney, and you're watching this studio series on vocal recording and production. Hi everyone, this is Josh Carney, and you're watching this studio series on vocal recording and production. Hi everyone, this is Josh Carney, and you're watching this studio series on vocal recording and production. Hi everyone, this is Josh Carney, and you're watching this studio series on vocal recording and production. So I like the sound of the WA87 and the AKG C414B the most. I'm partial to the 414B because it's got the clearest tone of all of them and the least amount of coloration as well. On all the other mics, the S and esh consonant sounds were just a bit too harsh. Now that might be a good sound for singing, but for speaking, narration, and dialogue overdubs, I like the clear sound of the 414B the most. For broadcasting, the SM7B and L251 both sounded good, and the 7B had a bit too much presence, but that's because I had the presence boost turned on. So in the next video, I'll show you how to process and edit dialogue in Logic.